Let's get started. I was just going over the past few weeks, what we've been doing in terms of SOA Suite and performance. It's basically a little introduction, an overview into all these different aspects of performance with SOA Suite. To begin with, we looked at the more general things with the principles of performance tuning that Steve led. Matt then gave us an overview of JVM tools and things. And then parts 3 to 6 were Oracle specific. So we looked at WebLogic, OSB, BPEL best practices, and today we're looking at monitoring using Oracle's Enterprise Manager. So the agenda for today then is why are we still talking about performance. Just to quickly go back to the previous slide, you can see that we've covered a lot of things there. We've covered, we've covered WebLogic, OSB, and BPEL, the applications and the services that you're actually going to be running on. So why are we still talking about performance? Why is that still on the agenda? Next, we're going to be looking at what Enterprise Manager actually is. Some of you might not be too familiar with Enterprise Manager. You might have a vague idea, or you might have some misconceptions about what sort of a tool it is. So we'll be addressing those. We're going to look at how OEM can add value to your business and why you should recommend it to your superiors, and how you can sort of really leverage some of its capabilities to get you the most benefit from the cost of it. And lastly, what does OEM provide? When we get down to the actual technical details, for you as maybe an operations person or someone even in development, what are the sorts of things that OEM can do for you rather than just your business? So why are we still talking performance? Some of you might be saying, haven't we covered everything by now? Well, the answer to that is quite clearly no. To start with, we thought about tuning different aspects of your middleware stack for performance, different things you can tweak, different settings that you can change to get the most out of what you already have. Then later, in terms of OSB and BPEL best practices, we saw how you can design with performance in mind. So when you put together your services, you can right from the word go, be thinking that you want to have a highly performant infrastructure. So the third and missing component is that it's important to monitor in case there are any future changes to your workload. So maybe your customer base expands, you partner with a new firm, and the volume of requests that your services have to process might jump up, or just simply through general marketing you might find your customer base increases. So this is what we've seen before, the tuning process. This goes for tuning your infrastructure and when you're designing services. This is the process that you go through when you look at performance. You measure, analyze, hypothesize, make single changes that you can then test and then run the cycle over again to see if that made a positive difference. So when we're looking at monitoring, really we're looking at the measuring and analysis aspects of this process. And although we've already covered the design and tuning parts of it, that's not where it ends. Even if you've got the most out of your software, you might still find that you'll need to increase the amount of hardware that you've got. So you might want to put some more RAM in your servers, increase the amount of resources available to the software, which comes with increasing demands. So what is Enterprise Manager? This is the Oracle definition, full of buzzwords. So I thought it would be a good idea to try and explain what that statement is talking about. So when it says the Oracle Enterprise Manager family of products provides comprehensive solutions for testing, it's talking about the integrated test suite. This is the sort of thing that is targeted towards developers, but also more senior people can use it as well. if you wanted to do a tech demo, for instance. It's quite good at that, and we'll be taking a look at that later. Deploying, you can deploy either JEE applications, or you can deploy SOA composites to your SOA infrastructure. There's quite a nice differential between those two aspects of your infrastructure within Enterprise Manager. You can use it to control your infrastructure, so you can start and stop services. You can invoke actions on MBeans that have been exposed. In terms of the monitoring capability, you can look at those exposed MBeans and gather metrics from those. Again, we'll be looking at that a little bit later. You can compose dashboards, which gives you a great little snapshot that's entirely personalized to you. It's full of the things that you're concerned about. So you can have a good, quick, immediate view of the health of your system. For diagnosis, you get graph data, so you can see patterns quite easily. You can get direct access to the error logs, so you can just use the Enterprise Manager console rather than having to SSH into the box. That's something I've got a little example of. And finally, resolving. So you can actually, with the way that the operation works as well, starting and stopping services and controlling MBeans, you can use that as a way to adjust the distribution of resources, and you can also configure actions to be taken whenever a particular threshold is met. So how does OEM add value for me? You might be thinking, all of this stuff is lovely, but you can monitor and control infrastructure with individual consoles. Just by way of an example, the WebLogic console has WLDF, the WebLogic Diagnostics framework. It gives you a lovely monitoring tool there. You can use the WebLogic admin console to control your infrastructure. You can use the Oracle Service Bus console to start and stop services, to view change logs. Why do I need another product that's going to do what you might be thinking is basically the same thing? So, well, the first thing is that it does become very cumbersome with a large infrastructure to do all those things that you can do with the individual consoles, but for all your machines all at once, it's much nice to have one place where you can see everything, where you can control everything, without thinking, having to wonder where your service is, where it's deployed to, and open up the right console for that. It's one console on one server which manages absolutely everything. And the other disadvantage is that data is not presented in a way that makes analysis easy on your individual consoles. So in terms of gathering metrics, I have actually prepared a slight demo for this, so we're going to hope that it does go off without a hitch, but we'll see. So this is my console. This is the Enterprise Manager console as I've got it set up. This is it's just basically an example one that I used to do a tech demo in the office quite a while ago. So it's a little bit old. The latest version of Enterprise Manager is 12C. So this is one version back, but it is still the latest version for SOA Suite, which is still 11G. 12C is upcoming. It will be here soon. I was at the Oracle Fusion Middleware Forum just 2 weeks ago in Portugal, where they announced and we're going over some of the new features of SOA Suite 12C, and Oracle Enterprise Manager 12C is already released and ready to manage that. So let's just go over the demo then. What we're going to look at first is gathering metrics. So here we've got the SOA folder, WebLogic domain folder, a couple of others, and at the top is the application deployments. Inside application deployments, we've got JEE applications. Inside the SOA folder, we've got SOA composites. These are a few test ones that I've done previously. And inside WebLogic domain, we've got servers. So there's the admin server and the business activity monitoring server. So let's look at the sort of metrics that we can look at. If we look at the system MBean browser, this shows us all the MBeans that are exposed to us and that we can make some sort of action on. So if we look at let's have a look at some BPEL MBeans. Look at the BPEL engine and the BPEL engine MBean. Here we've got a list of attributes that the MBean is exposing. This is all just standard JMX, so this can be viewed with any sort of monitoring tool. There's the operations tab. This is, as I mentioned earlier, there are things you can do with Enterprise Manager that control your infrastructure. These are ways that you can control your infrastructure through JMS, through operations on exposed MBeans. You can start and stop things. And also this is an important thing as well, notifications. These are the list of things that you can be notified on. These are where events are triggered, and these are things that you can subscribe to. So whenever the BPEL engine is starting or has stopped for any reason or it's failed, you might want to get a notification and send out an email for that. Actually, just before I move on, I'll take a look at the performance summary screen, because this does have some bearing on metrics as well. So here we're looking at the performance summary screen. You can see that I've already been messing around with this, because the chart set, we've got two chart sets. There's a default one here, and this is going to show us live updates on this graph of these different metrics that we can view. These are all part of MBeans, exposed by MBeans I should say. And in my chart set, what I've done is add these two at the bottom, which we'll come back to a little bit later. So if you wanted to add your own, you would show the metric palette. And here we've got a list of all the different things that Enterprise Manager can view. Expanded and ticked to the ones that are already there in the graph view. Here are the two that I've added. They're there as part of a SOA composite folder. So these are part of the widget order project, and I'm monitoring average incoming messages and the incoming messages throughput. And this is all fully configurable. You can move things around quite easily. One thing it is important to note is that you should always save your chart set. Don't expect it to save automatically, as I have done in the past, and then spend ages configuring it and then lose everything. That is very frustrating. So another thing you can do is set up notifications. Looking back at the performance summary charts there that we've got these particular MBeans. So CPU usage, that's something that you might want to set up a notification from. You can set thresholds on that and set alerts so that you can be notified when things exceed a certain threshold. Now just a little bit of terminology now. Metric snapshots. They are named snapshots of a particular target's past performance. So you can take a snapshot of your server from a given time period, and you can then use that metric snapshot to calculate the appropriate threshold that you might want to use based on deviations from what you know is historically a normal performance. You can set thresholds, which are boundary values against those metric snapshots. You can set arbitrary ones as well. and the current sort of monitored metrics are then compared against these threshold boundaries. And you can specify thresholds such that when a monitored metric value crosses that threshold, an alert's then generated. An email is the sort of de facto standard for Enterprise Manager. You can get critical alerts when something's crossed a critical threshold, or you can just get warning alerts when it's crossed a warning threshold. So obviously some things, you would want to be woken up in the middle of the night for. That's a critical threshold that you might want to set up for one email address, but for just general warning email address, warning alerts, so the server's under a particularly high load, you might not want to be woken up in the middle of the night for that if something hasn't actually gone wrong. So you can gather and evaluate diagnostic information for targets that are distributed all across your infrastructure. And quite an extensive array of middleware performance metrics are actually automatically monitored against predefined thresholds. So by selecting a metric, you can then define or determine whether the thresholds have been defined for a particular metric. So these thresholds then are used as a mechanism to generate alerts. And then those alerts in turn are used to notify you whether a target's up or it's down, or the response time's slow, and so on. So you can monitor sort of overall performance there and get a good idea of the health of your system. You can also set up corrective actions. So for instance, what I showed you earlier with the system mbeans, let's just take a look at that again. We can do operations, and you can configure corrective actions to respond to particular alerts situations. So if you get alerted on something that your heap usage is getting quite high, maybe you'd want to increase the heap size as an example. You can react to things automatically without having to bother you, and as I said before, without having to wake you up in the middle of the night. Diagnosing problems. This is something that I've got an example for. So let's have a look at the business activity monitoring server. It's currently down. Another aspect of control here is starting server, so let's start that up. You can see the server, it's task in progress, it's trying to start now. And unfortunately we've got a suspiciously convenient error that the startup has failed. So let's, instead of closing, let's view the log messages. And here we've got a massive list. This is taking information directly from the logs that are written out and saved to the local server. And we can see we've got masses and masses of notifications here that are just sort of clogging up this this window, this pane. So what we're going to do is take down the message types. We only want to see incident error. If you hover over them, I think you'll get a a tooltip, a definition of what that means. So internal errors in the product. That's different to an application error. But we don't want to see notification, don't really want to see trace or unknown, just errors and warnings. And let's search. Obviously you can see there's a few other different things that you can search by there. You can search by particular composites, so if I wanted to filter by the widget order project, I could search for that. So here we can see our error, sorry. And the error is that it could not connect to Node Manager, which is unsurprising because the Node Manager isn't started on that server, because I haven't started it yet. So that's the problem. That's one way that you can diagnose problems, is just by looking at error messages. It seems quite an obvious thing to say, but the advantage of this being a feature of Enterprise Manager is that you, as perhaps an operational person or someone who's more involved in the administrative side rather than the development side, might not always have credentials to SSH into server, or your security guidelines might not allow you to have permissions to SSH into a server, so perhaps you'd need someone else in your organization to fetch those logs for you. With this, you don't have to do that. You can view the entirety of the logs in one place. You can filter, you can just see what's important to you, and it means that everything's just that little bit more easy. And in this bottom pane here, you can see that we've got the full stack trace, so it's not just individual lines, and you can do some sort of diagnosis, or ask the right person to come and work on that for you. Something else that you can do is if we look at the admin server again as our dashboard, we can see the response and load. So this is the request processing time on our dashboard, and this is the requests per minute. Perhaps we've got an alert configured, and one of these metrics has alerted us of something. What we can do is have these are all configurable, these graphs, and you can see immediately something's wrong. This doesn't look like a normal healthy server, and we can drill down by looking at our performance summary. We can also look at JVM performance and see what's happening. Is our heap usage excessively high? Maybe that's causing a slowdown. Is if we look at the generic performance summary page, if you noticed earlier, we've got a CPU usage percentage. Maybe our CPU usage is particularly high. Individual spikes aren't so much of a problem, but a very high level constantly is going to cause you problems. And this, as you've just seen me do now, it's taken me 2 minutes to just click on the right things, have a look at the graphs and see, yep, the CPU usage looks fine, heap usage looks fine. There's nothing really there to worry me. So just before I move on, I'll give you a little demonstration with these that I've configured earlier. These two metrics are part of the widget order process. This is something a little bit extra that's perhaps not particularly related to performance, but it is a useful product, and it is part of Enterprise Manager, so I think it's worth looking at. So we can test the service. And this is appropriate for developers to use, it's appropriate for administrators to use. And you can test things to see how well they're working and to see if they're returning you the right results. It looks like I'm experiencing some sort of network issues there, so what I'll do is I'll move on and I'll come back to that at the end and see if there's enough time to go through that and show you the test suite. So I've covered the metrics that you can gather. I've covered the notifications and alerts that you can get. We've seen how you can diagnose problems using error logs and just by using the graphs that are available. Now we're going to look at some of the extensions. These are in addition to the core Enterprise Manager functionality. So where you install the Manager product or where you install one of the agents, these won't be automatically there. You have to install a separate Manager application and a separate agent on each machine where you want this sort of deep diagnosis. And this is really where you get a big benefit from OEM over some of its competitor products. The first one is ADP. This stands for Application Dependency and Performance. It analyzes SOA, OSB, Portal, ADF applications. It can collect performance measurements on all of those things and can track contextual relationships. Now what that means is that it helps you understand the sort of complex relationships between these the business functions, any associated components, and the underlying runtimes. So all these things, which are very distinct things, it can give you a top-level view of the entire end-to-end process there. JVMD, JVM Diagnostics. This is Unlike ADP being for services and composites and ADF applications, this is just for JEE applications. So anything that's not been built using Oracle tools, really. If you just got just a normal JEE application that ADP won't monitor out of the box, this will provide you deep diagnostics. It'll go right down to the Java thread level and even down to individual line of code visibility. So it can help resolve issues with your applications that are related to locking, if you've got deadlocks, memory leaks, hanging threads. And the overhead that this entails is pretty low. It's almost negligible. So if that sort of level of deep diagnostics is something that you do need, then you can just leave it running on that particular server. Next, we've got BTM. This is Business Transaction Management, and it is actually a separate product to OEM, but Oracle BTM functionality is a part of the SOA Management Pack Enterprise Edition and the WebLogic Server Management Pack Enterprise Edition. I could talk to you about licenses at this stage, but you could do a full webinar on licenses and not quite get to the bottom of things. It really is a good idea to speak to your Oracle partner to get a full overview of licenses and what's right for you. I won't presume to advise you at this stage in a general sense. So this is a separate install because it's part of these two management packs. It is extra on top of the core functionality and on top of ADP and JVMD, both of which do come with the product, although they're not by default installed. And Business Transaction Management gives you a high-level overview of each individual transaction that a customer might make. So if it's something financial, you might be invoking a rules service, you might be invoking a mediation or a BFEL process. And what BTM will do is give you a step-by-step view of that transaction. So every single stage of something that the user might perceive as just one thing, but you as part of the operations team might see as a lot of disconnected but orchestrated things via SOA Suite. You can have a good view of any problems that happen in a certain level, any performance slowdowns, any extra network latencies. So if a service is located on a different continent or something, then it's get really hammered. You're sending a lot of requests out to something that's located physically far away. Maybe you could think about moving that to a closer data center. Now, as I've said, all those three are deployed as applications to WebLogic Server, both the manager and the agents. But it's important to remember that Oracle doesn't recommend deploying them universally. Just where you need that sort of deep diagnosis and really added functionality to just the core OEM monitoring capabilities. And just at this point, I will mention RUEI as well, Real User Experience Insight. It is a separate product again, but it is quite tightly coupled, and it's more focused towards user experience. So just from a user's perspective, if they're trying to use your application that's got amazing performance tuning and it's tuned to be as fast as it could possibly be, but that function that it provides that you've tuned to the maximum is not something that's visible to them, and they're not clicking through when you think they should be, that's something that you need to rectify. Maybe your user interface needs to be corrected so that it's more obvious that that function is available to them. Perhaps they don't know. This Real User Experience Insight will show you where users aren't going down the path that you expect them to. So, just in summary, how familiar are you with your infrastructure? do you know what a good healthy system looks like for you? Could you just take a look at your dashboard and say, yep, that's running perfectly, that's running very, very well, I don't need to do anything? Do you know how to spot the difference between that and something that's showing abnormal load? Having a good familiarity with your system in the sort of way that Enterprise Manager provides is really good for reacting not just quickly but wisely so you've got the knowledge, but you've also got the experience of what a good system looks like to help you make your decisions. And is it even possible for you to view the health of your system? If you've not got any monitoring installed, I would highly recommend that you certainly look into getting that rectified. If you have no monitoring installed at all, then you've got no idea of how to make the most use of your hardware. You've got no idea how to make things the best they possibly can be for your customers, how to leverage the software that you've got. So that was the end of this webinar, and that's the end of our series. This has just been a really broad introduction and overview to Enterprise Manager. Some of our early webinars go into a little bit more detail, but hopefully that this webinar and this series has whetted your appetite for performance and given you something to think about in terms of how you can make the most of the products that you're paying for. So if you've missed any of our webinars, you can watch them again. Our YouTube link is C2B2 Consulting. We're on Twitter as well. All of these webinars were posted on Twitter, so you could have registered for them there. If you are watching this again on YouTube, they'll be posted under C2B2 Consulting. My Twitter handle is @Croft. And we're also on Facebook and LinkedIn as C2B2 Consulting Limited. And do please visit our website if you're interested in the services we provide, or send us an email at info@c2b2.co.uk, and we'll be happy to get back to you either by phone or by email. So all it remains to say is thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.